Bum, 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 bum. Hi, everyone. Give everybody a minute to pop in. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum. Hey, everyone. Happy Monday. Thanks for being here. Get everything set up. Welcome to my third official live stream. It's an honor to be here. Grateful to have you all here. Today I wanted to talk about walls versus boundaries. What is the difference? How do we apply those to our journey of unfolding and becoming the greatest, unfolding the fullest expression of our being? And what does that mean? What is a boundary versus a wall? And how we can use these, to our best advantage. So, I'm Coach JC Garretts. You may know me from social media, Instagram. You may know me in person as well. It's a deep honor to be here. I've practiced martial arts for the majority of my life, off and on throughout time, to the point where now in the last couple of years, coming up on 3 years, I've been coaching martial arts as well too. And so that has catalyzed within me this realization of one of my gifts, as you may know. So, Liam's in the house. Good to see you. Leroy Green here. Banana Republic 69. Great to have you all. Thank you for being here. As I was saying, I've coached martial arts for a number of years, as well as trained. Which catalyzed the idea for me, the realization within me that that coaching just may be one of my gifts, and that so I wanted to begin traveling down that journey a little bit further and fleshing that out and seeing what that is. Banana Republic, you subscribes. Thank you so much. Leroy Green, you single? I am not single. I wouldn't consider myself single. I have a wonderful group. That I'm deeply grateful for. Christian Lydia Dijkstra, that sounds like you have found your gift. Thank you. I believe I have. Anyway, so I'm currently working with an international coaching academy to get my life coaching certification. Where I'll facilitate life transformation, as well as journey through cancer as well too. Both pieces that have been very pivotal in my journey. And want to be able to share that and pass that forward. My experiences and the bit of wisdom that I gained, and the trials and triumphs that I experienced along those ways. So. So on to the next piece. What are boundaries? Let's talk on that. What are boundaries? What are walls? Let's start off with walls. Walls can be a number of different things, right? Different applications. Like we think about, the term wall, and what is it? It's a structure that divides one space from another, right? Disallows anything to pass through it. Whether that be physical objects or light or sound or whatever it may be. Walls are rigid. Walls are protective barriers. Walls, we cannot see past them. They disallow connection between two people, objects. They disallow vulnerability. And they most certainly single people out, right? They're shutting people out, others out. Some examples of walls that I've had in my life, one in particular that comes up, my father figure. He was a very unhealed man, very much in caught up in his own traumas and whatnot. And though he did, work diligently to overcome those, he had a hard time with that. And so, outliving all of that pain that he had grown up with. And carried on into his adult life. And as a result, he was a very challenging man to deal with. Very, very challenging. And so after a number of years, of attempting to have a relationship with him, it became evident to me that it was going to be much better for me to keep some distance from him. Maybe a half wall, if you will. I didn't have to cut him completely out of my life. I didn't bid him, good riddance or, wish ill will upon him, but had to put him out at a very, very great distance until the day that he passed. Unfortunately, he died alone. But with that said, having that wall up, disallowing him into my circle, for me created much less chaos, much less turmoil that I also didn't want to bring into my children's lives. He himself was a master of walls. Many years before he died, he even proclaimed that he had imprisoned himself in his home. He had put up this cyclone fence all around, chain link fence all around his property, no trespassing signs, was single, till the day he died, and just locked himself up in a way and at home. And in his words, it was very much similar to the time that he had spent in prison. He said he felt comfortable there. He felt relatively safe. And in a lot of ways, he recreated that, when he got out of prison and, moved on into the latter years of his life. And what was that impact? Isolation, missed opportunities for growth. He didn't get to grow and evolve these relationships with wonderful people that were in his lives, or that were in his life, and really get to the deep core connection, that we get to share with others. It's my personal belief that, one of the major purposes of this human experience we're all going through is that connection, both to the world outside, those around us, and to ourselves, of course. But if we're cutting out those connections to others, then we're really missing out on a really wonderful piece of the meaning of life. So within that too, ducking and running from hardships just reinforces that concept of ducking and running rather than sticking through and going through the challenges and hardships together, which can actually be very bonding and really build a relationship if handled correctly. And if you were at my live stream a couple of weeks ago where we talked about difficult conversations, that's a big piece in it, everyone, is that what we talked about there is those challenging conversations, those actually catalyze growth, and they open up doors and break open things, sticking points for us, that we can kind of get in and dissect those and kind of work through them and figure out all the ins and outs of them, and then come out on the other side much better. So if we're putting up those walls, we're basically disconnecting that opportunity, to use that as a moment for growth. On the other side of that coin, boundaries. Boundaries, on the other hand, are there for a purpose, same as walls. They're just a little bit different method of distancing ourselves from someone. Um, a boundary is a healthy limit, right? It's a not cutting somebody completely out of our lives, but it is extending the distance at which they are at the reach at which they're at. Maybe even, if you will, putting them farther out of our orbit. Is another way to think about it. So that they're not necessarily in that deep, tight circle in the center, of our core relationships, but further out where they're less influential. They have less of an effect on us. If it's a chaotic relationship, it puts that out at a distance where it's less tumultuous, and it affects us less in our everyday. Within that, for a couple of examples of boundaries that might be healthy for us is conversations, right? If we get into a conversation with somebody, and they're getting really heated and they're making a lot of attacks, and they're doing there's all of these attempts to get you to engage in conflict, if in unhealthy conflict. Let's be specific on it there. Personal attacks, calling names, using some of our most sacred information, about us, some of our deepest traumas, using those against us, trying to get us to engage in this toxic conflict. Extending those, realizing that there's a person out there that is attempting, to create turmoil and pull us into their hurt. In that example, maybe not necessarily we want to remove that person completely from our lives, but we put them at a distance, and we can do so, by saying like, hey man, like I really want to have this conversation with you, and it's really important to me that we work through this. However, if you're gonna, if you're gonna engage in conversation like that, in these repeated attempts, to demean or belittle, discredit. Then I'm not going to engage with you in return. If we treat each other with respect, then wonderful. Then I'm all about it. But if it's going to be in that space, then I need to create some distance. Another one for me, in my journey a number of years ago, I had to set a boundary up, for people that used alcohol and used it in a negative context. Alcohol and substance abuse were a thing for me in my history, and at a certain point, I realized that this is just not serving me. No matter how many times I try to change my way, my way of thinking, or my actions, the alcohol in itself was a big factor in playing into that. It's not to place the blame on alcohol that it's at fault. It was my fault, 100%. And when I added alcohol on top of it, it magnified it, right? And so I realized after a certain point, there's like, I've got to set a boundary with this, not only with myself in terms of, how I imbibe with alcohol, but then also, the people that I surround myself with, that still to this day, or at that time, chose alcohol as a pastime or a method, if you will. And so, by doing so, distancing myself from alcohol, and the people that use it in those ways, use it as a form of, trying to cope, where it's kind of their go-to and they're in that space frequently. I had to distance myself from that, and I've found that I'm in a much healthier place as a result of it. The benefits, of boundaries, freedom to be as we are, without, and be in our space and be a sovereign being, as well as it maintains our connection to others. If we're able to set up a boundary rather than a wall, that person is still in our lives. There's still a connection to them. And maybe we can just participate in that relationship in the healthy aspects of it. We don't have to dive into the, the aspects of the relationship that can be very draining, can be very toxic, and pull us into some ways that we're working to get out of, some ways of being that aren't necessarily most beneficial for us. So, consider that in your life, guys. Where's opportunities for boundaries, healthy boundaries versus walls. It's not to say that walls should never be used. By all means, there are definitely some scenarios out there where we have to put up a legit wall, like this person is not allowed in, or this particular way of being is not allowed in, or if we're looking to get ourselves healthier, and changing our diet, exercise, all of those things, getting a good spiritual practice going. Think about those boundaries versus walls. What are we willing, what can we accept, at a distance, and what do we need to cut completely out of our lives? Those are all things that should be considered for sure. And contrasting that, walls block, right? Boundaries filter, if you will. That wall doesn't allow anything through, right? Sound, sight, physical manifestations, to where that boundary is a filter. It only allows the certain pieces to come through, and we get to choose what those pieces are. So a quick dip, on your journey, of unfolding, observe your thoughts, right? Spot the walls that you're putting up. Can that wall be changed into a boundary? Right? Can you just alter it just a little bit to where it's more of a filter, right? And less of a shield or a battle structure. Hello from Tokyo. Where are you from, sir? I am in Central Oregon. Conning, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Welcome. It's great to have you. With that said, everyone, while we're talking about boundaries versus walls, let me ask you a question. Throw it into the chat. What walls do you see in your life? What boundaries have you set in your life? Are there some that you need? Are there some that you're kind of procrastinating on? Are there some that you have set up and have found some success? Are there some that you set up and you need to alter a little bit? Conning says, "Oh, that's nice. My friends study abroad in Portland. I spent some time in Portland myself. Wonderful town. Very, very different than where I grew up, and I'm grateful for my time there. It was a wonderful, wonderful place. So, again, throw it into the chats. What walls do you see in your life? What boundaries do you see in life? What have you set up? Where can those be altered? Any topics on that?" Give you a few minutes to plug them in here. As I said in the post, everyone, I plan these live streams a couple times a month, depending on how flow goes and whatnot, in space, topics. But love having you here. I'm going to continue doing these going forward. But with that said, in the coming months, what are some topics that you might like to hear about? What you find interesting? Where you might have some experience or even some thoughts to share? Throw them in the chats there if you have any ideas for topics in the future. I'm running about 19 minutes right now, coming up on that 20-minute mark. Talking walls versus boundaries. It's great to have everyone here. It's a wonderful day here. Supposed to be pretty warm, 98 degrees, I guess, is what I hear. So we'll see. The last couple days have been warm too. I've been able to get out in the sun. which is massively beneficial for me. It's something that has become pretty much a non-negotiable. Perhaps I set up a boundary or wall there, in that I work to get at least 20 minutes of sun every day directly on my skin, as much of my skin as possible. No sunscreen. Get that vitamin D, get the mitochondria going, all of the benefits that come from it. But I'm digressing. Anyway, folks, it's wonderful to have you here. I'm gonna throw in the chat here a link to a meditation that I have put together for you all to bring peace and calm. I call it the universal flow meditation. Wonderful sounds, wonderful scenes of being on a river, and just tapping into the calm. I'll throw a link to it down into the chats for you, if you'd like to check it out. If I can find it here. Is it going to allow me to chat? I may not be able to drop it in the chats. I'll throw it into the description when I post the live stream. I'll have to figure that out. There must be a way that I can throw something in the chats and respond to you all that way, or maybe I just need to do it. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I apologize, guys. This is something I'm going to have to educate myself on and figure out how I can throw something in the chats for you. Either way, the link for the Universal Flow meditation will be in this description of the live stream when I post it on YouTube. Thank you all for being here. Join us for the next stream. I've got some ideas brewing on what that topic will be. Would love to have you all there. Keep posted on the Tail of the Dragon YouTube channel as to when that will be. I imagine it'll be a couple weeks, but I haven't had a hard set date. But keep yourself posted, keep yourself informed on what's going on, and everyone, thanks for being here. It's an absolute honor to chat with you all, and that you share your time with me. Enjoy a beautiful now.